why most deposits are non-refundable. I wanted to do something different on this channel. And so for the next month, we're going to be revisiting my past and looking at some of the stories that I have accumulated servicing Mercedes over the last 20 years. And so one of the reasons I wanted to do this is because May 17th represents the 20th anniversary of me having this as just my job, my career, my shop. Before that date, I was also a college student or a high school student, and I was not 100% sure I wanted to do this. But on that day, I walked into the shop that I rented from my buddy Nick, who's still around, and I said, today I'm a Mercedes mechanic, a full-time Mercedes mechanic. And I knew about 10% of what I needed to, and I said, I'm just going to keep trying to figure out the rest. So I figured the most appropriate way that I could celebrate this milestone in my life is by sharing some of the insane, ridiculous stories of working on these cars that I have accumulated. So the first story is going to be about how one of my customers, who I really could not stand, put a well-known dealer of Mercedes 113 SLs in a position where he had to buy his car. And this guy was such a hustler. He was so much of a hustler. He could literally get anything out of anybody that he wanted. And that's why I did not enjoy working with him, because he was the opposite of me. We'll just refer to this guy by his nickname. His nickname was Edge, but I'd like to refer to him by EH instead. And so EH might be watching this video. And that's okay, because I haven't had to service a car for him in a long time. But I learned a lot of lessons about how to deal with people and interact with people. And I think that one of the reasons that I learned to be patient, at least as patient as I could be, was because of dealing with EH and his car. So his car was a 1970 280 SL. It was dark red. It was a pretty nice car. It wasn't perfect, but he was always trying to figure out ways to make the car perfect. And so this car was dark red 568 with a cognac MB-Tex interior. And cognac MB-Tex, cognac leather, all those cognac colors are very hard to replicate. But his mission was to make the car as perfect as he could on a tight budget. And this was in the era when a $2,000 repair bill was all the money at my shop. This is when most repair bills, well, like a good month for me was when I had a $1,000 repair bill. So I had to go through and fix a bunch of stuff in his car. I had to put heater levers in it, which is very tricky at the time. You know, I had to replace things like shifter bushings. I had to adjust valves, change spark plugs, change belts, you know, change all the fluids, grease the suspension, repair the window guides. You know, I remember repairing and adjusting window guides. All these jobs that are no fun to do. And at the end of me doing all this work on the car, the first time I worked on it, instead of the customer thanking me and saying, hey, thanks for doing a great job at a fair price, he just complained. And I remember why he complained. It was because I used an electrical cord to hold my light, because this is before we had battery-powered flashlights, and it put a scratch in his upper left fender. So yeah, he had a reason for that. And because of that, I discounted his repair bill deeply. But by no means was this a perfect car. I just did it because he complained so much. And I said, here, you know, I'll take, you know, several $100s. I can't remember exactly how much off of the price. But this guy proceeded to leverage this thing, you know, for a while. And I had to do some other repairs in the car, you know, after that. But finally, because I want to detail everything in the engine compartment, so I sends the car to a guy who claimed he knew what he was doing, and we all know how that always works out. And the guy plated some of the stuff in his engine compartment. He spray painted a lot of stuff gold. He painted a lot of stuff, you know, this yellow gold color, used some non-Mercedes hardware. When he put some stuff back together, he put it back together wrong. He spray painted some stuff on the car, like the valve cover. He pressure washed the engine compartment. Okay, whatever. But, you know, then of course there was upholstery work to be done. And the seats before were decent. Afterwards, they were like overstuffed and they looked like leopard print. And what happens when we try to pursue perfection is we often end up with something that is a lot worse than what we started with. And that was the case of this car. So, of course, he calls me up after he's had all these improvements done. Oh, Pierre, this car doesn't work right anymore. Can you help me? And his whole shtick about this car was it always got bad gas mileage. Oh, the car only gets 10 or 11 miles per gallon. Well, yeah, because you drive 80 or 90 miles an hour. That's the story of mechanical fuel injection. So then I'd lean the car out. He goes, oh, it jerks in the mid-range. Okay, because I had to lean it out. How about we rebuild your injection pump? I can send it out to Pacific Fuel Injection. Oh, no, that's too expensive. So it was always this, I want it, but I don't want to pay for it, sort of give and go. So the last time that I dealt with this customer, instead of digging up all these bones in the graveyard, the last time I dealt with this customer was that his fuel pump started leaking. So I had a rebuilt fuel pump on the shelf from Bob Youngman. I came over there, I put it on. Pierre, it's still leaking. Okay, it's still leaking. So I go back, I change a couple of the fuel hoses. Calls me again, Pierre, it's still leaking. At this point, why the heck isn't he just towing the car to my shop? Just bring the freaking car to my shop, you know, so I could fix it. No, I don't want to bring the car to your shop. And I'm going to bother you till you say no. This is the thing. I've had to learn, the biggest lesson I had was to learn to tell people when they're too difficult to work with that I don't want to work with them. So the third time I went out there, I found out it was a high pressure fuel hose that had a pinhole in it. And after the car would run and pressure would start to build up and the hose would start to expand, then the little leak would appear and it would start to spray fuel out. And the hose wasn't even that old. So I took the hose off, I put another one on, and while I'm working, he casually mentions to me, you know, I see that these things are getting really expensive. What do you think I could get for this car? And this is when you could not find, this is like 2018. 2017, maybe it was 2017. If I wanted a good 280 SL, I couldn't find one anywhere. They were really high. I mean, average cars were selling for $180. You go to an auction, average car, you know, a green car, a red car, some incorrect details, still needs 30 grand in repairs, selling for 150, 160. You know, a deal is like 130. Then reality finally sets in. But during this period of time, I think that he had gotten tired of owning this car, and so he saw an opportunity. So there's a well-known dealer of classic Mercedes in Palm Beach County. We're not going to say who it is because the person who bought the car from him, I genuinely think did not benefit from this deal. But he goes down there and EH says to him, I got a bunch of people looking at this car. I've been wanting to sell it for a while. And the dealer goes, how much? And he goes, you know, I want 90. And the dealer goes, you know, I don't think I can do that. I think the real number is probably closer to 80 or 85. I think it was 85, but it might have been 80. And EH goes, no, I'm going to sell it tomorrow for, you know, something close to 90. So the dealer goes, how about I give you a deposit and I wire you the rest of the money? So, of course, EH said, yeah, if you give me a deposit of $5,000, I'll hold the car for you. So the dealer goes to the bank, brings him $5 grand in cash. But after he goes back home and starts getting his affairs in order to purchase the car, he starts thinking, you know, the car is a replacement engine block with no stamps on it. The car's interior isn't that great. It's okay, but it's not great. you know, for what I'm going to have to pay to improve this car, like the cost of painting it and taking it apart, putting it back together, it's going to be really expensive when I'm done. It's going to be a $200,000 car when I'm done. Am I really going to be able to get all my money for it? You know, because at this point, cracks are starting to show up in the market. You could have just go sell a 280 SL for $100K anymore and make out like a bandit. So the dealer calls EH and he says, I want out. I want my deposit back. And EH goes, you know, according to the law in Florida, if you give someone a deposit, unless you stipulate in a contract it's not refundable, that it's refundable, it's not refundable. So the dealer, of course, is beside himself. He goes, what do you mean? You're not going to give it back to me? And he goes, no, I'm just going to keep it. So this is the kind of person I was working with, right? He always complained. Always. We put a diff mount and engine mounts in this car. The car still doesn't ride good enough. Well, you gave us a budget of $1,000 to buy 2 engine mounts, a differential mount, and put them in. Well, I still think it should ride better for what I spent. You know, this guy was the hardest guy to deal with. So selling his car, the entire time I'm like, please, somebody buy that car. Anybody buy that car. Anybody. I do not want to service this car anymore. I do not want to deal with this customer anymore. And it's not even, I wasn't going to service the car anymore anyway. What I really did not want to do was have to answer one more call from this guy. I was done. It was too hard. It's too stressful. You know, sometimes you think about a person you don't ever want to hear from again. The problem isn't dealing with their car. The problem is that phone call. You don't know what they're going to say about you. I always try to smile and be nice, but, you know, people are hard to deal with. They can be real hard to deal with. And so at the end of the day, the dealer was forced to buy the car, loses $5,000. I said, that's a tactic I need to remember, just to make sure nobody does it to me. But that was a story of probably one of the most difficult 280 SL owners I've ever dealt with. And now when I see these cars come in, I have to ask people who buy them, like, you know, do you understand that there's no such thing as a $1,000 repair on these? Is what it is. I really appreciate you guys listening to this thing all the way through. Please like, share, and subscribe. Tap the bell for notifications, and I will see you in the future. And thank you to all of our Patreons.
You got